Eat it. Oxygen. Why we
Me, your host, Loralyn Mears, everywhere on social media. And how about throwing 4 or 5 stars our way if you're listening to Apple or Spotify? Subscribe to our show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Grit Daily podcast, the Grit Files. I'm your host, Loralyn Mears. And in the house today, we've got another Jersey person. So he's not a Jersey girl, but he's a Jersey boy. And well, that's okay. We like everybody on this show. Justin Huddy has founded Radius Care. And if you're thinking, maybe that sounds familiar, well, perhaps you've got somebody in your family that you're doing elder care for, and you're responsible for helping make their medical decisions. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a free solution that guided you through all of those really heavy and complex medical questions and processes? Well, that's what Radius Care does. And I may have not gotten that exactly right. So let's have Justin tell us in his own words. Hey, Justin.
Hi, how are you?
I am good, aside from tripping up on your name there. Let's go. So
Right.
why don't you talk to us a little bit about Radius Care and what was the brainchild behind it that said, I need to create something like this?
Sure. So to kind of discuss what Radius Care is, we'd have to first have an understanding of the health system and the current process. And so really what happens, as we're all aware, if you go to your physician and you have a new diagnosis, you're often told what that new diagnosis is. You're often stressed at the time of the doctor visit. That's why you have kind of skew in blood pressure and the rest of that. And then you go home and then you log on the internet and you start looking around on Google for, what is this diagnosis? What does it mean? Who are the best doctors? Maybe I'll go to Health Grades. Maybe I'll search around a bit. And the reality of the matter is you have to find a better way to kind of manage the post-diagnosis news. And really, that's what Radius is doing. We looked at that process model and we said, why is it that the physician tells the person, here's what's wrong with you? And then you go home and you try to educate yourself on that. And then the physician enters billing codes with a diagnosis that they just explained to the insurance company or to the payer. And so we thought, wouldn't it be great to be able to monitor that information? And then when we see change occur, notify the individual and give them the short list of the best pathway back to care, back to health. And so that's what Radius is doing now. We kind of consider ourselves like a credit monitoring, if you will, where once you connect to your account, it's always running in the background. Something changes in your care file, we alert you, you log in, and we explain that diagnosis to you and also the short path to how to resolve it.
Fantastic. I love everything at that intersection of humanity and technology, and Radius Care is definitely playing there. So talk to us about what's been hard in this process. This whole thing is called the Grit Files. So we assume the founders have, had an experience or two that's been a little on the grittier side. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Well, there's been a lot of those in the past, quite honestly. I think, those kind of hard points, those difficulties are something that will always come, right? We've gone through them in the past. We're going to continue to go through them in the future. And so we have to be aware of that. But as far as the historical, it's a matter of, at first, for example, having a conversation with potential investors and describing the model of Radius Care and seeing some pushback there in terms of data sharing. And the reality is, I tried to explain to them that, there was a time where people wouldn't enter their credit card information online for fear that someone was going to take it. Now we have Cyber Monday, right? Where it's the biggest kind of shopping of the year. So the same is happening in healthcare. And there's actually been some studies done that show that people will share their health information in an anonymized way when they actually have a need, right? When there's something that's impacting them, they're more willing to share that health information. And so that's just an example of one of the things that you kind of have to position in the market space and know that the market, you're ahead of the market, and hopefully it's catching you. And we've kind of seen that now.
Is it too far of a stretch to say that Radius Care is really like that watchdog looking for Medicare fraud and looking out for your best interest as the patient, or is that overstepping?
Not yet on the Medicare fraud side of the equation. We do have some things in the pipeline related to that, but more or less the decision making that individual is kind of engaging with So really, again, to go back to the beginning, when someone gets that new diagnosis, it's often a state of panic, right? It's like, what do we do next? And if you put family members in the room with you, kind of pre-COVID, because now, of course, family members couldn't be in the room with you. But if we had family members in the room with you, they might all hear a different story or hear a different thing that the physician said. So it becomes very confusing. It's funny, you've heard that expression that good decisions are never fast and fast decisions are never good, right? And that's usually because you don't have enough time to process all of the things that pertain to that next decision. That's what Radius is trying to solve. We're trying to say something's changed. Let's understand what's changed. Let's figure out what those best resources are around you and kind of direct you there.
Patient advocacy. Amen to that. As a person who's experienced that firsthand, where I was given a diagnosis of cancer, I'm a PhD scientist, good background in genetics and all of that stuff. And I just remember the radiologist telling me, and it sounded like that, show on Peanuts, right? Where you listen to the teacher, wah, wah, wah,
Yes.
wah. And I walked out of there going, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I'm educated within this
Yes.
space. So I can imagine people who may not have English as their first language, that the information is being presented. It's obviously very scary. It can be traumatic in many cases. And so it's really great to hear that Radius Care has got the back of the patient and saying, look, we got this. We're watching what's changing, and we're going to give you the information you need in a simple, accessible way.
And to your point, and kind of what coincides with your background, I'm sure you're aware that sometimes your brain will just shut down negative news. You'll kind of assemble a block around it. That often happens with soldiers who go to war, who come back, and that part is erased, right? And so the same thing can happen here in terms of healthcare. You're given some news, and that might not be a catastrophic event in your life in terms of the news. Maybe it's just general, a new diagnosis that needs to be monitored. But what happens is that people can gloss over that. They can think that the appointment went fine. I mean, I had this experience myself where my father went to a physician, and it was during the COVID time. My mother couldn't go in with him to the appointment. And the physician had mentioned that, he had a new diagnosis, but to my father, he just saw it as a social engagement, so everything was great. We talked about sports and we talked about this and that. And when he left, then I saw the alert come through to me that said that your father has a new diagnosis, and it was, of course, carotid arteries. So things were not fine.
It's great to hear all of that. People need that. They need the support, because like you said, in either case, you can blank out, for good or for bad. You can just miss it because you don't want to hear it, right? None of us really like change, and we're certainly not comfortable with change that can affect us negatively. So talking about change, nice segue there. See how I slid that in?
Perfect.
How have you changed on this journey of entrepreneurship?
I think that the journey has hardened me a bit, because you think that things will happen faster than they actually do. So there's a lot of times you think that this is it. This is going to start to accelerate, and then you're paused, and you have to kind of process that pause and maintain the resilience to keep going and do it again and do it again. And so I think that what's changed in me is just that I've become kind of more patient in the process. I think that's the best way to describe it.
All right. Now, what if I gave you an undo button and said, Justin, you get one whack at this. You can change one thing in your life, personal or professionally. What would you do?
Ooh. I think I would hit the undo button and undo kind of my own isolation. So I'll explain what that means. In the building of Radius, it was something where I was convinced this was the right thing to do, and I would have done this by myself, no income, whatever it would take to get it done. And so kind of, I don't want to say nesting up, but kind of positioning yourself in an office and just grinding away at that and thinking that that was the right thing to do. As I look back on that, I realized that, you need the collaboration, you need the support of others in that process. And so this isn't kind of something you can just do on your own. So if I had that undo button, I would definitely kind of undo the isolation aspect of this and say, let's get collaborative. Let's get some people with other ways to kind of help guide. it's not necessarily that you're captaining some ship across the ocean by yourself. That would never work, right? And so you need these other people to support you and to help provide guidance along the way.
Oh, bingo, bingo. So with that level of self-awareness, then the next question I think really feeds into that. If I said, Justin, what's your kryptonite? What breaks you?
Oh, time. Time is my kryptonite. It's probably all of our kryptonites, right? Time is the kryptonite to every kind of early stage company, but also personally, it's time. And the reason for that is because, again, I have the tendency to think that I can map things out and that I should hit certain milestones by certain kind of time points. And there's often variables that will come up and impact that. And then I'll hold myself accountable for that. So I think that it's important to recognize that you have to be conscious of the time on the clock, and you have to, play speed chess, if you will. You don't have all day to make those decisions. You got to make that move and hit the button.
Ooh, I like that, speed chess. That's a term I haven't heard before. And as someone who lays there awake at night when I want to stop thinking about all of the other things that are on fire with my startup, I start thinking about how can I bend time, or how can I clone myself, right? So I'm going to start playing speed chess. Thanks for the tip. When we go through these journeys as founders, all kinds of things will get in our way and sort of change our minds and change our direction. What have you come across that really threw you for a loop and you went, whoa, okay, plan B?
I think that there has been a direction that I anticipated that we would go. And so I was building in that direction. And then there are, outside factors that will kind of add pressure to that and make you kind of readjust the sails. And so an example of that is that, when Radius first started, it started as a company that connected people based on items in their health file to others who were recently diagnosed, right? And so what we were doing here is we were kind of matching, anonymously, we would have someone join the platform, we would import their health information and attach it to a screen name. And then if you had questions about certain ailments you were facing, you could ask other members who had that ailment and resolved it successfully. And that was kind of this first version of what we thought we were going to do, because in the instance of someone who has a new diagnosis, they don't necessarily know where to turn. And if you look on the internet now and you see chat boards, there's no kind of way to verify that that person has had that ailment or come through it successfully. And so that was kind of version one. And then we had conversations with some private equity folks who said, no one wants to think you have Facebook of healthcare. It's impossible to scale that. And so while we were kind of well-intended with what we were doing at first, we realized it had to be transactional in its model. And so we had to pivot based on the insights and the feedback given. But we thought we were correct in the beginning. We thought like this is the move. This will help people, and it would help people. Unfortunately, though, the business didn't support kind of the direction of social, right, in that regard at the time.
Got it. That's such a clear thing. And so now, because you've talked a little bit about where Radius Care started and sort of where it is, just to make it crystal clear for our audience, I want to pretend that I'm an alien and I've just landed on planet Earth. And you're going to tell me in, 5 to 10 words, Radius Care is or does what? Blank.
Radius Care is the voice for the patient side of the healthcare interaction.
Got it. That makes it really easy. Now, where can our audience find you, and how can we help you? You're doing a great service here.
Thank you. Thank you for that. The audience can go to myradiuscare.com, and that's the online presence. We also have apps in the App Store. And effectively, the way that they could be most helpful is just to spread the word. I mean, we all know someone who may be of the Medicare age. Those are the folks that have frequent interaction with the health system. And it's truly something that, 65 is a Medicare age, right? And so someone can go on and log on and use this themselves for their own needs, assess their care team, do other things with that. And we should also be conscious of the kind of the older side of that segment as well, where folks of that age used to turn to a phone book, right, for information. And so they're paralyzed trying to make decisions at times. And so this is kind of a way for us to step up and add value in their lives as well.
How much do elders have to pay for this?
It's a free service. It's free for anyone who has Medicare. They just connect their account. They do that through Medicare itself. We don't ask for their Medicare number or any other details of that effect. They just come from Radius Care, set up a username and password, and then Medicare itself authorizes us to connect.
Oh, that's fantastic. A service that's approved by Medicare and free, like Medicare, to support the patients that need it the most. I knew there was great reason why I wanted to have you, this Jersey boy, on our show. Thank you for that, Justin.
Thank you.
All right, I've got one last question. It is our signature question. I know we've talked about some pretty big topics here on everything from pivoting as a startup to some of the trials and tribulations and the grittier side of trying to get through all of this, but this one's fun. So if I came down there, headed south of Jersey, of course, like I'm in North Jersey, right? What part? You're in South Jersey or Central Jersey?
We would say Central Jersey.
Yes, the part of Jersey that technically doesn't exist, right? Which is kind of fun, and that's a bit of a Jersey joke.
The tech hub that it is.
I agree. Newark's booming. I love everything that's being poured into there. I am like, go Newark. So back to the question. All right. If we got a chance to peek into your closet and there was a pair of footwear there that best represented you, Justin Huddy, your personality, and it personified everything you stand for and who you are. Talk to us about that pair of shoes, boots, whatever it is.
Are you saying I'm an old shoe?
Maybe, and that's okay if that's your thing. Hey.
No, I think I would say I have a pair of boots that are, they look good. They're still stylish, but they might have a few scuffs on them. And maybe that's too telling, but, that's what I would say. That would describe, kind of my personality at the time. It's something where, it's been an interesting kind of run, right? So those shoes have a few miles on them, but they're still there. They still look good, and I'm still happy to have them in the closet.
There you go, and they're still going strong, right?
Absolutely.
I love that. That's like one of the best analogies I've heard for a startup founder describing the footwear that personifies them. So thank you for playing that game with me and our audience. And so with that, Justin Huddy, founder of Radius Care, a Medicare solution helping patients make better decisions and keeping track of all of the stuff that's so hard to keep track of when you're going in and out of appointments. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?